Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to yet another edition of Speak Up. Uganda is bleeding. I am so delighted to see so many of you joining us here on this online protest. And of course, welcoming all those of you who are joining us live on all the different Facebook platforms that we're streaming on, courtesy of JB Muonge, Ichoto, Patricia Semungu, and a whole host of other pages. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our Saturday protest where we get together to talk about the things that are close to us. We're talking about our comrade Fred Lumbuye. We're seeking his whereabouts and we're asking for him to be freed. We're asking for the freedom of our comrades and colleagues who are held in illegal detention centers right across Uganda. And of course, we're exposing the dictator. We're exposing human rights abuses in Uganda. If there was ever a week I turned up to one of these protests and I felt optimistic about the future of the struggle, it's this week. I'd like to welcome to this afternoon's session, for the first time making his debut appearance as a moderator, Comrade Michael Kirkpatrick. Michael Kirkpatrick, please could you make sure you're unmuted? Can you hear me? The zip has been opened. Comrade Michael, good to see you. Welcome to Speak Up, Uganda is Bleeding. And so good to have you here participating as a moderator. Please, 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 can I have the honor and privilege of passing on the microphone to you, and you can take us through the next 57 or so minutes, where we can see there's quite a few people who've got their hands up. Please, over to you, Michael. Say your few words of introduction and let's take the next hour on. Over to you, Comrade Michael.
Thank you very much, David. I appreciate it. It is an honor to be asked to moderate this session here. I want to thank Haruna Farouk for moderating the first hour that we had here. Thank you very much. We had some good discussions there. I appreciate everybody's contribution, their willingness to speak up and to be seen, to encourage those that are here and to encourage those that we don't see or don't hear from. Remember that while we want to grow our numbers here, there are many, many who are listening, who are watching, but they're not standing out. They're not letting themselves be known, but be very sure that they are there and they're listening and they need encouragement as we struggle through this. As David said, my name's Michael Kirkpatrick. I do live in the US and I live near Philadelphia, which is the cradle of liberty here in the US. It is the city where the Declaration of Independence for America was, where we had a revolution against the British colonists, just like Uganda. We succeeded and gained our independence. And Philadelphia is a very special city to me because there's a lot of symbolism here. There's symbolism of revolution, not only a revolutionary war, not only a revolutionary city, but revolutionary people who advocate for change, no matter what the issue is, people who see things that should not be and want to change things for the better, not just for themselves, but for others. So it's in that spirit that I come to you to moderate this session. I have been traveling to Uganda for many years. My first time to Uganda was in 1998. So I like to say that I'm not coming to you with book smarts, not being well read. I am not an academic expert on Uganda. My knowledge is from personal experience, from the relationships I've built with my friends in Uganda over the years, my friends in the diaspora. I've been back and forth to Uganda many times. I have experienced city life. I've experienced a life in the villages. I like to say that I am just a simple village boy. I'm not a complicated man. I'm a simple village boy. And I've also spent time in the north. I was in the north during the war, so I saw a lot of the struggles and suffering of our Acholi brothers and sisters and comrades in the north. So I see what is happening. I see what's happening with the regime, that they're oppressing people. They seem to be moving around the country, and as pressure grows, as they feel threatened, they are oppressing people, and people are paying with their lives. They're paying with their own blood, and that's what we want to change. That's not the Uganda that we want to see. So I joke about taking my muzzle off. I do love to speak, as you all well may know, but this isn't time for me. This is time for you. This is time for you to speak up, to let your feelings be known, to let your ideas be known. You each have 5 minutes. And I ask you also, please share this link, share the link, the Zoom link, share the Facebook link. Occasionally look into the chat room. There may be information there that might be useful to you. There may be somebody who's trying to connect with you. I have often come into this room, and through conversations and through the words that somebody has said, I've been inspired, and I've wanted to connect with somebody on a continual level outside of this demonstration. So be sure to occasionally check the chat room to see if somebody is trying to contact you, or if you want to contact somebody else. So I see hands up. Let's grow our numbers. Let's bring more people into the room so that they can hear, but also it is time to hear from you. So I do see we have Banasula. Nico is there, our friend Nico in the Netherlands. Andrew has his hand up, and I see James William also with his hand up. So we'll go in order that you have entered and raised your hands here. So I will turn it over to Banasula. Banasula, let's hear from you.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, comrades, wherever you are. Thanks that you really show love to our motherland in Uganda, that we get out of this dictatorial regime led by Dictator Museveni and his cronies. I'm happy to see Comrade Haruna. We are hope you can recognize my voice in our People Power group, People Power Army group. Yes, how are you? You all comrades. Comrades, really, Dictator Museveni has showed us that he is a non-Ugandan. Whatever this man is doing in our country, it really proved. I think this time we have really proved that Museveni is a non-Ugandan, and he wishes nothing good for Uganda. He wishes nothing good for Ugandans. Of recent that I heard of that he wants to, in fact, it's yesterday that he wants to sign up, to bring up a law that someone who has done any, or who is suspected of any criminal offense, that he or she must be denied bail, and that person must be arrested for 180 days before his or her hearing, the court hearing. And imagine a human being of that caliber. This man, people, Ugandans who have been serving with NSS, National Security Fund, people, they have been crying all along that they at least want some small amount from their savings in NSSF.
Oh, Banasula, we're kind of losing you here. I think your signal might be weak. Let's see if we can unmute you again. You went on mute there, Banasula. Can you unmute yourself? I'm sorry. I think your signal is weak, and we cannot hear your audio. You may want to try turning your video off If you turn your video off, that'll allow the audio for your bandwidth, or the bandwidth for your audio. Okay. Banisula, let's see. Okay, unmute yourself. Let's try this. Okay. It's not working out. Let's, well, thank you for your contribution, Banisula. You bring up good points that, you know, it seems like there's more measures almost every day that the dictator, you know, as pressure comes and he just gets more demanding with his crazy restrictions and laws and the really extrajudicial laws that he's not going through. It doesn't seem like he's going through parliamentary processes. Everything is an executive order from the dictator. He can just snap his fingers and have things changed. And it seems that you know, his people in parliament are not speaking up and challenging him as speaking out, being out of order. And even the judicial system, people aren't challenging him in the courts. They're not challenging him in the judicial system, and the judges and, you know, and the lawyers are remaining silent, probably out of this fear for reprisals. But the dictator is definitely out of order with many of these rules and regulations that he's putting in place to oppress people and people who are peaceful. You know, they're not threatening anybody, and, you know, their rights are being taken away on a regular basis. So thank you, Banisula. Let's next. I see Nico. Nico is a good friend here, and Nico, let's go to you, and we'll have your 5 minutes starting now. Thank you, Nico. Okay, go ahead, Nico.
Yes, you can hear me, right, Michael?
Yes, we're good. Thank you
so much. And welcome everyone who is on this fantastic session of Uganda is Bleeding. I've been here for half an hour and heard some interesting conversation. And I wanted to react shortly first to moderator Hanuna. I might misspell his name of the first session. It was about social media, and he rightly said that we should behave appropriately on social media. Now, I'm very active on Twitter, and I have to say that it is my experience that Ugandans are very decent on social media, and if there's indecency, then it's usually coming from NRM people inciting violence, talking very badly about gay people, those kind of thing. But maybe it is because I watch the English part, so I can't refer to the Luganda conversation, neither to Facebook. But I can say for Twitter that I think Ugandans are the best. The only thing, we need to have more Ugandans on Twitter, because on Facebook, it's mainly other Ugandans that are listening to you. And it's really important to stress that if we want to get out of this crisis, we need to connect to the rest of the world. For the rest of the world, Uganda, do not exist. And why do we not exist? Because we don't yell in their direction. Now, this connects a little bit to what Fazir was saying when he was talking about Lumbuyi. He said we are somehow connected, and it's true that Fazir is connected because he did something great last week. He spoke on BBC World Program, and that was one of the first international media experiences that I've seen. Now, actually, I was trying to stay a little bit out of the Lumbuye corner, because it's my belief that we shouldn't be focusing on one thing. We should be focusing as an organization on multiple things. So it's obviously getting Comrade Lumbuye out, but also getting all these other prisoners out, and also stopping the IMF loan, and also getting into touch with parliaments and governments all around the world. These are all things, if you're a serious political party, you can't do one thing at a time. And it is something that I have to remark, that I noticed sometimes in the Lumbuya debate, that there were people saying, okay, yeah, let's just pay some money and get over it, so we move on. Sorry, move on to what? We are a political party. If we are going to run Uganda, we can't say, oh, now we're building a school, so we're stopping building the hospital. We can't do two things at the same time. That's ridiculous. As a government, you need to do hundreds of things at the same time. So we as an organization, we need to learn to do multiple things at the same time. So when everybody was talking about Lumbuya 2 weeks ago, after he was arrested on the 3rd of August, I continued to write to members of parliament because, and that is something that I don't agree with Fazir, is we are not connected at all. In general, the politicians in Europe, let alone the normal people, but even the politicians have no clue what is going on in Uganda. And if we don't tell them, then it's not going to change, because the press is not helping us. Because as we have seen, it was Fazir that came on BBC, but other serious media, I have hardly seen them. I've seen them write or tell about Lumbuya. If you were going to Google, it was only Ugandan media. Now, if we want to win this battle, we need international attention, and that is also the case for this Lumbuya case. Now, I was saying I was trying not to be involved, but things just got crazier and crazier in this whole Lumbuya saga, as we all know. At first, we thought it might be quickly resolved, but then the Ugandan government started lying that he was in Uganda, which turned out to be false. And then there was this lawyer, supposedly the lawyer of Lumbuya, and by the name of Mustafa Demir, and he was asking $71,000 for his legal assistance. And then
Nico, we'll give you 60 seconds more. We've got more hands up, so we'll just
yes, I'm not able to finish in 60 seconds, and I would like to. Yes, because I talked to the lawyer, and I think it's important to tell.
Okay.
But then yeah.
Please continue.
Yes. So because I think people want to hear what this lawyer is about, right? I mean, people have contributed big amounts of money. As not just $70,000, but even more by that. And Comrade Henry already said that it is still in the hands of the chapters. Now, last week, because what I was saying, that some people were like, let's get over it. There were people in the diaspora said, let's pay that money. And I am responsible for the Dutch money that was collected. And so I started doing some due diligence on this lawyer. So this lawyer came to Noop and said, yes, I'm a lawyer. I have this law firm with 12 people. And I also have this is the man, by the way. I also have an office in Amsterdam. And I was thinking, okay, office in Amsterdam, I'm in Amsterdam. I should be able to find out a little bit more about him. So I called up the Amsterdam office, which, by the way, is located in Rotterdam, which is a bit funny because those are really different cities. And the line was dead. The phone was disconnected. Then there was a mobile number, and then I got the voicemail of someone that was not connected at all to this lawyer. So then I checked the Chamber of Commerce. Now he was registered in the Chamber of Commerce, so that was just fine. So then I thought, okay, then I have to give him a call, and I gave him last Wednesday a call on his WhatsApp number, and fortunately he picked up the phone, and this is how we video called. Now this lawyer, he is a bit of a confused man, because the first 3 minutes of our conversation, he thought that I was his landlord. Yeah? Remember that he has an office in Amsterdam. He thought I was his landlord, although I clearly said, my name is Nico Schoondewoert, and there are not that many people in the Netherlands having a similar name. So only after 3 minutes, when he was just talking, oh, my son has some problems, and oh, I help you with this contract. He was talking a lot. I said, look, I think you're confused. My name is Nico Schoondewoert of the National Unity Platform. And then he said, oh my God. And I said, okay, I want to know how Fred Lumbuye is. He didn't answer that question. And in the remainder of the conversation, we was mainly complaining about money, which is not a lawyer thing. So I actually talked to a couple of lawyers, yeah? And a friend of mine is a Turkish lawyer who is half Dutch, half Turkish. And he said a normal lawyer is interested in his client. It's not only about the money. So this guy, although I checked, he is registered with the Bar Association of Istanbul, but he is not a proper lawyer. He was just interested in the money. And not only that, he was threatening that if we wouldn't pay, to increase that money to $100,000. Now I asked him, I told him, well, I mean, people want to pay because they want to see Fred Lumbuye. So I asked him, can you give me a sign of life of Fred Lumbuye? And then he tried to get away from that by saying, I am the sign of life of Fred Lumbuye. I stayed friendly, but obviously this was a very unsatisfactory response to my question. It's a very normal thing that you want to know if someone is alive. So later I repeated my question, and I asked him again, what is the sign of life for Fred Lumbuye? Do you understand that all these Ugandans that have collected that money want Fred Lumbuye? Do you actually have access to him? And he said, I am the sign of life of Fred Lumbuye. Continue to complain, and then I just stayed friendly, because it doesn't have any effect if I'm going to call him names or insult him. So that's not what I did. We ended the conversation after 45 minutes. And then 2 hours later, she started WhatsApping me, telling me that I'm going to be sued by some partner firms in the Netherlands. So clearly he found out that probably because I'm white or something, or a white Dutch voice, he thought I was not related to Ugandan, and he opened up a little bit, and he totally regretted that. One thing that was clear from this was a guy that was not on top of this. Because we video called, I saw his house. He just had an average house. He was definitely not a rich lawyer. He was not a mafia lawyer. He told me that he was actually a refugee lawyer. So, which is a totally different story than his website. His website says he does business consultancy. But in the reality, he is helping African refugees. And that is how, by coincidence, he got into this case, saw a financial opportunity, and then started to ask for a lot of money. And what I taste from his responses is that he actually doesn't have access to Fred Lumbuye. So I told people in the diaspora, do not pay that money now, because we're going to be losing the money, we're going to be losing our leverage, but we're not going to have Fred Lumbuye. And now, if it's possible, David, can you show the 2 screenshots of the Turkish law that I sent earlier to you? Because that's the last thing I want to show. We know that Fred Lumbuye is in Turkey, and it's not easy to extradite him to Uganda, because the Turkish law is actually quite up to international standards. And it says, first of all, that you cannot be extradited for political reasons. Now, we know that the reasons that where Uganda is asking for his extradition are political. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, the Turkish law also clearly says that if there is suspicion of torture that could happen in the target country, then also extradition should not take place. So I think that the Turkish government, they got into some problems. They really can't extradite him. They would lose a lot of face. They already had the Khashoggi incident, and this would just be another Khashoggi incident. Lastly, I want to tell you that we demonstrated with the Dutch chapter at the consulate of the Turkish. It was clear they felt very uncomfortable about that. The Dutch consul came out and tried to send us away, but we were on the public roads. And I want to ask all of you, let's demonstrate at those Turkish embassies and consulates. And let's make the Turkish feel uncomfortable, because they are the key player here. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you very much. You were right. That information that you shared with us is important because, of course, not all of us are lawyers, but we also don't want to surrender our rights. We don't want to surrender other people's rights because we're ignorant to the law. We need to make sure that if we don't understand the law or something doesn't sound right, that we seek counsel from trusted people. And that counsel that we seek will help avoid these pitfalls and will help avoid people taking advantage. There are opportunists out there waiting for things like this to happen, especially in Europe. With immigration and people emigrating and people moving all around the world and fleeing, they are fleeing bloodshed in their countries, because there are forces in this world that are stoking war and they're stoking conflict. These world powers are causing people to flee and become immigrants into other parts of the world, which they need legal representation. They need, the laws of the countries that they're entering have immigration laws, and, do you need a certain registration card, and there's fees and to need access, and there's threats of deportation. So there are opportunists out there who will claim to be lawyers, even lawyers themselves. They see this as a money-making opportunity. So when a case like Fred's comes along, that could possibly be a situation of life or death, because this is a political asylum, threats of harm to somebody, they're going to assume that people are desperate and people will spend money by any means and at any amount to see somebody get through this, and they'll pay any amount for their survival. You're right about Turkey. The Khashoggi case was very high profile here in America. I'm sure the Khashoggi case was very high profile in Europe. I don't know how high profile it was in Africa or in Uganda, but Turkey does not have a good track record. Turkey had failed with the death of Khashoggi. They failed in the PR, in the aftermath of it. They are guilty. They are guilty of not protecting him. They're guilty of not bringing justice to those responsible, and they're guilty of violating people's human rights. They were guilty of violating Khashoggi's human rights. So putting the pressure on them, making them uncomfortable is what we want to do. We want to bring attention to them, because that's where that's where Fred was abducted. That's where he still may be, and he's not getting the protection under Turkish law, which he needs that representation. The other thing that you mentioned that I liked was You know, this isn't just about Fred. People are tending, what I see going on in politics in Uganda, it tends to be very personality driven. You know, people are angry with Museveni, they want change, so it's just between Bobby Wine and Museveni. But let's discuss issues. Let's take it away from insulting individuals to talking about issues. In the case of Fred, there are other political prisoners, so let's discuss the issue of human rights that are protected under UN law, international law, not just the laws of each individual country, but there are international global human rights that the UN has stated, and people need to be aware of these and use these as a platform to stand firmly upon, so that we can take our case to the international level and we can put pressure on at the international level, because we have the ability to shame people who are turning a blind eye. We have the ability to shame hypocrites. And as me sitting here in America, there's hypocrisy everywhere. You know, there's things people say, but they don't follow through, and it doesn't seem like their actions follow their words or their statements when it comes to human rights. Solidarity, we need to show solidarity with others who are suffering, especially in the Great Lakes region. I've recently been combining the case of Fred Labuye with Paul Rusesabagina in Rwanda, because regimes in that part of the world are resorting to extrajudicial kidnappings and torture of people who are simply speaking truth, which is threatening to these cowards. These cowards who are in power feel threatened by words. It's not violence. It's not people who are harming them or threatening their lives or lives of their loved ones or lives of their children or their family. They're simply words about a cause and the difference between good and evil. So, you know, let's show solidarity with others, and so that our numbers grow and that burden is lifted from a small number of people, and we can share the burden with others who are going through the same thing. So thank you very much, Nico. I appreciate it. We've got more hands up here. I see Andrew has been waiting for a long time. Andrew, your 5 minutes starts now. Thank you, Andrew.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you, David. Very, very happy to have heard from Professor Nico. Frankly, for me, he's just explained what has been running into my mind regarding that matter. The previous speakers, including Mayanja and Nico, they have re-echoed my points that I wanted to share today. So I don't think that's re-echoing.
That's good. We're like-minded.
Yeah, but yeah, thing is, because I'd told them to myself previously, they just spoke my heart out as well. I just needed to highlight 2 points in 1 minute. If I could share my screen, that would be great. David, if that's okay.
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone who is attending this protest. It's been some time that I've not been able to participate. But I've been watching the replays. My time was a bit funny. And this is what I've been telling people in this struggle and this effort for cause of change, that we are total volunteers engaged in other activities. So every now and again, one of us will not be at the front line. We expect them to be. So let us be slow at speaking accusations of Onoyalide, Orialide, Oriatide, which is one of the biggest defeating effort that we bring on the table. But I think everyone has been saying it is time to start multitasking, and that has been my main interest today, to try and emphasize the need for us to multitask because the dictator is feeling threatened but still very comfortable because we like a dog, and I have chosen the images purposely because we are on a hunting mission, friends. We are hunting for victory, but so much has been thrown at us and will continue to be thrown at us. And focusing is key in as much as we are multitasking. So sometime this now couple of weeks, we've hardly had any battle at the front lines of IMF, at the front lines of demanding for several of our comrades who are incarcerated in Uganda. And in the midst of this nonsense, the dictator came out and he had no shame to assure the world that he's the most democratic president, only he has a dictatorial army. This is the abnormality of this government. They lie with their mouth open and their teeth coming out like with a massive confidence. And now National Unity Platform, which is the alternative government or government in waiting, we have a duty to try and continue the fire on, because when we press, we are able to stop 1 billion donations. If we are able to speak, we are able to direct the discussion. We would have been in the discussion for the refugees. And I agree with everyone else. If people are in need of a shelter, we must be able to offer it. But we must be able to also define the terms and conditions. We must also be able to appear sensible, because Nambole Stadium is the isolation center for COVID-19. It cannot suddenly become a refugee center as the government of Uganda wants us to believe. But because these people are doing things adequately and they are incapable of proper work, they are taking the drive, and we are not there to also help in this drive. And yes, since we are on a hunting mission, the footprints that we are following now are for Lumbuye Fred. Lumbuye is just one footprint on this hunting ground. And as such, we cannot overlook others. James Mubiru has not been brought to court, has not been tried. John Bosco Serunkumba and others, they are incarcerated, and we are not even aware of how they're doing health-wise. This is really a matter of national concern in the midst of this moment. If the illegitimate president comes and says, we don't torture, we don't imprison, we don't kill, we must be able to voice alongside the time we are demanding for Lumbuye. We must be able to use our known platforms of Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I see people say we are not internationally exposed. And yes, we are internationally located, but we have also chosen to communicate in Uganda.
Yeah.
We are suffering
30 seconds.
syndrome.
30 seconds, Andrew. Thank you.
We are suffering the Tanzanian syndrome. Tanzania was isolated of Swahili because of Swahili, and they were left behind for a long time until they realized. If Ugandans on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter don't realize the need to communicate in the medium, other people will understand. Our cause will not be taken seriously or understood. Let us do purpose. So as we continue to multitask, remember that we are asking the good Lord to consider speeding up the process of what he wants to bring in Uganda. I hope General Okech had his will and coffin prepared. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew. You're right. We do need to multitask. We can walk and talk and chew gum at the same time. We can pivot. The case of Fred Lumbuye, we can go to social media and bring attention to that while we bring attention to the hypocrisy of the dictator. We can provide proof. We can provide video. We can provide articles. We can provide reports. That is not difficult. So, let's keep the fires burning. That's why we need to grow our numbers. We can't feel the pressure of doing this all on our own. None of us here is a single warrior. We're not an army of one. We're an army of many. So, we can spread this, the awareness. Somebody you know, you can have these Twitter parties, or you can have a friend say, you know, tweet some things out about Fred Mbuyi's case. Somebody else can tweet some things out about the hypocrisy of the dictator. Somebody else can tweet something out about you know, just the oppression that's going on, and things like that. So you know, hopefully we're all able to do this, to use this technology to reach people in Uganda and outside Uganda, and reach the international stage, so they continue to amplify the voices of Ugandans. James, I'm going to skip over you. I hope you don't mind. You had an opportunity to speak earlier. I want to go to people here. We have some hands up here. We'll circle back to you if we have time. So I do want to go to Desmond here. And David, if we have anybody who needs to cut in, if we have anybody who is going to pop in based on recent events, and the closure of dozens of NGOs in Uganda, we may have somebody coming along to speak to those issues. But let me go to Desmond right now. Desmond, your 5 minutes starts now. Thank you, friend.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, wherever you are. Good evening and good night, wherever you are. I am Desmond, and I'm just going to share my experience this week. I had a text from one of my cousins who said, you should stop talking. You should stop putting red beret. You should stop. And we're talking about all the issues in Uganda. And I'm here, even I'm not like Fazil, having a blogger or anything. And I just said, will they come for me because I have a red beret and putting on a Speak Up t-shirt? Is that how little, how low they have become to come? But I was just encouraged. And I just want to encourage you. Last week, I said something about looking for one another now. This is a time we should trust one another and look out for one another and see how we can protect one another. But this is a verse. All the time when I get those information, this is just my close cousin who was telling me I should stop, that I should be neutral. How can I be neutral? Tell me, how can I be neutral to speak about the issues that is affecting even him, even affecting them? They're like all slaves, and I just couldn't get my head around that. This is in Revelation. That is exactly what helped me. I know your works. You are that is Revelation 3. If you want to follow it, 3 verses 15. I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. Would that you were either cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot or cold, I'll spit you out of your mouth. And I thought, this is Jesus speaking to, but I just thought, I don't want any Ugandan to spit me out because I've been lukewarm and I've been not speaking about the issues that is affecting. Actually, in reality, I am comfortable here. I don't need even to speak about Uganda. I have my own business. I have my family here. I'm secure. I'm safe. But if these people think they're going to come for me, even when sometimes I go to Uganda, look what is happening. Everybody is going to die. There's nobody going to be here forever. So what my encouragement to any of you, come out of fear. Let's continue speaking out. And after that conversation with my cousin, do you know how many people I spoke to about Uganda? About 30 people. And I was more energized because there's nothing, it's a fire that can never be quenched. A fire that I'm ready to die for. And I like what David said. David said, abandoning revolution is a treasonous. That word keeps on going with me. And I tell you what, they may not like me. And I think that is what is going to happen with our struggle. You'll have friends who will reject you, and they will be, let them reject you for speaking the truth. So I just want to thank you, everybody. As I said before, this is a platform where we sharpen one another. We encourage one another. And I like what Fazil said. I like what Nico said. It's international. Let's speak about this to this local citizen, your neighbors, whoever you come across. If you have that opportunity, continue speaking about it. So if all of us here put on our red beret, make sure our cameras are on, let them come and find us wherever they are. That country will be broke. And when it's broke, because they're looking for how many people today on the Zoom, we're 45 something, even plus more. They will not, Bobby Wine said, and again, they will not finish us all. And if you think one has gone, the other one, you are there. There will be more coming up. And so my encouragement to you is that let's be focused, continue demanding, speaking about injustice in Uganda. There's nowhere there's justice in Uganda. So let us keep that fire going. And I would just want to thank you everyone, friends of Uganda, Michael, Nico, and I just want to thank Uganda is Bleeding, Dorcas and their team. You're such a fantastic team. I can't wait to barbecue for you, Lord. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Desmond. I hope everybody sees the passion that Desmond brings to us and how he shares with his community, people who may not know about Uganda. What we're able to see here is Desmond was taking verses from the Bible. Actually, one of my favorite verses is from Proverbs. It's, as one man sharpens another, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So we're here to support each other, encourage each other, sharpen each other with knowledge, sharpen each other with truth, and we can spread that and make ourselves stronger in force. James Williams shared with me in the chat, as we hear these crises come up, as we hear these things that seem like they're dark and depressing and that things aren't getting better, we know that the regime will continue doing these nonsensical things. We hate to see people suffering. That's what we want to bring to an end. That's why we do this. Those who have paid with their lives, those who have shed blood for this cause, for just the sake of freedom and for a positive future. These crises that come up, there is a silver lining to these. This week we've heard things in the news with his refugees coming from Afghanistan to Uganda. The dictator thinks he's going to make money off of this, but the international attention on what's going on in Afghanistan and people that are concerned for refugees around the world, when they start hearing that refugees are going to be settled in Uganda, they might start asking questions. They might start asking questions about Uganda, just focused on, oh, isn't Uganda great? They're going to host refugees, but then we have the opportunity to speak about Uganda, to speak about the real reasons, to speak about truth, to speak about the intentions, to speak about the history and the mistreatment of refugees, the mistreatment of Ugandans, and the inability for the regime to care for people in need. It is not a place where refugees should be going. They are fodder. They are disposable people. They are people who are being used for financial gain, not out of charitable, philanthropical care. So we'll have that opportunity. When we hear about NGOs being closed, we think, oh no, he's destroying us from the inside. He's taking away people who are strong. He's taking away people who are freedom fighters, who are speaking for the oppressed. Okay, he closes these. He's going to make people stronger. He's going to make people more resilient. he's going to see that those NGOs had international supporters. They had international supporters. And when they get shut down, when their funds get cut off, it's going to get their attention. And the dictator doesn't know that he may think that NGO just exists in that little corner of the world, and he's punishing people for speaking out against him. He thinks he's punishing a handful of people. Well, out of those handful of people that he thinks he's punishing, there's literally going to be dozens, if not hundreds of people outside of Uganda who support that NGO who are not going to be happy. And they will start speaking to journalists. They will start speaking to their parliamentarian representatives. They will start speaking to their neighbors about this injustice. So, don't think that these things that seem negative and a dark cloud is going to halt the progress. It's actually going to help accelerate progress. So let the dictator be a fool, because he's a fool. He's a buffoon. He's a coward by doing these things. So there is a silver lining in all of these things. So James, thank you very much for making that contribution in the chat. I appreciate you sharing that idea and reminding all of us about that. I'm not sure, David, if we had anybody pop in that you wanted to interject here.
We're keeping an eye, but if we do get, we'll let you know. Thank you so much, Comrade Michael.
This has been a great session. We have hands up here. I do want to continue going to people in the limited amount of time that we have left. I do want to go to people who haven't had a time to speak yet. So James, you'll have to forgive me. I do want to go to Mr. J. Walau here. If we could hear from you, and your 5 minutes starts now. You'll have to unmute. There you go.
I've unmuted. Do you hear me?
Yes. You're good.
Good. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, compatriots. Let me thank all of you who are contributing to the struggle at different levels in different locations. I really think we're doing a great job. We've dented the regime, we've exposed corruption, the governance mishaps, human rights violations, name it. And I think we've also been able to hit Museveni's PR lobbyists all over. And I think he's now feeling the heat. The dictator is trying to change the narrative in his recent utterance or statement, where he tried to disavow human rights violations in Uganda. Those of us who watched this was surreal, because one wonders how Museveni can disavow violence. How can he do this when he has been the master of violence for the past 50 years? Just that has intensified in the recent years, and I think we've played a great role in exposing this. So the question is, why is he doing this now? I really think something is brewing. Is the ICC closing in on him? Is he preparing for his departure, thus trying to create a positive legacy? Or is he preparing for his son? Or did he do this maybe in view of the bringing in the Afghanistan refugees? In any case, I think bringing in the Afghanistan refugees was an attempt to, well, raise money. That is one, but also I think to whitewash his atrocities. Just like Mike said, I think this is an opportunity for us again to hammer him hard and expose, his records on human rights and his attempt to host refugees. He has done it purely for political and financial reasons, nothing else. So let us continue to put Museveni under pressure. Clearly, he is panicking. Let's keep up the pressure. The other point I had is about Lumbuye. I think let's look at let us look at the bigger picture. The kidnap of Lumia is not happening in isolation. We've recently had a case of kidnap and repatriation by Rwanda and Nigeria. So this is clearly becoming a trend. So we need to resist. We need to fight back. We need to push back. And I think put a stop to this. What we realize, what is happening in Turkey right now, I think the reactionary forces that are both local and international that are trying to frustrate our efforts and the process of trying to find and free Lumbuye. I think we've hit a snag here. We need probably to change tactics, maybe bring in or to hire a private investigator who can probably help us to locate where Lumbuye might be. There are lots of forces conspiring to frustrate and fail the process. And I think there is some probably Ugandans themselves involved. There are many unknowns we don't know. The only way we can unveil this is probably to bring in an investigator to help us to find out the truth and ultimately find out our friend Lumbuye dead or alive and free him. So let us continue to put pressure on Turkey by continuing demonstrations at the different embassies and embassies. Let us continue with our Twitter bombs. I think they're doing a good job. But above all, let's do a boycott on Turkey. For example, the Turkish Airlines. Many of us use Turkish Airlines. I think that would be a good point of departure.
Yeah,
probably Turkey will feel the pressure and give in. Thank you. That was my submission.
Thank you very much for your contributions. You bring up some great points. We do need to keep up the pressure, and we do need to protest. We need to persevere through this to bring attention. And I'm glad you mentioned Twitter. Dorcas has been faithfully putting tweets out there. So those of you who have Twitter accounts and are on Twitter, not only can we do things during the time of this meeting, but we actually can be so much more productive when we're not here. Think of this as, this is our church time. This is our worship time where we come together, we energize each other, we get inspired, we get information that we can use that's valuable. But then when we leave here, that's when we go to work. That's when we get online. That's when we talk to our neighbors. So go to Twitter, go to the Stand Up Uganda Twitter account for Uganda is Bleeding. And Dorcas has put out some tweets with some valuable information that we can share and get it out into cyberspace. So our time has quickly come to a close. 2 hours has passed already. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity, this last hour to moderate. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for everybody who's contributed. Let's grow our numbers. Please, during the week, please share this link. Share the graphics that get shared online during the week as we approach Saturdays. Share them online with your connections. And it doesn't just have to be Ugandans. You know, your curious neighbors might want to join in and just listen. And maybe they'll learn, maybe they'll become enraged. They may become enraged by listening to just 5 minutes of this discussion. So please share the links, share the page, share these accounts with people. So again, thank you. David.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Comrade Michael. Thank you for accepting our request to come over and moderate this session, and for your useful reflection on some of the very valid points that have been made. Like Comrade Michael has said, we've come to the end. We're trying to keep this to 4 o'clock so that we can let you go on and carry on with the rest of your weekend. Would like to remind you that we're here every Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. UK time. So for those of you who haven't been able to speak, please let's look forward to next week, and where you can add your contribution to the submissions. So my apologies to you, but let's carry on. Like Comrade Michael says, this is just our recharge session. This is where we come to get energized. Let's go back and continue doing the work that we're doing and spreading the word and raising our voices. So thank you so much to all those of you who've taken the time to join us on Zoom, and those of you who have been following us on Facebook and all the different platforms that we are streaming on. Desmond mentioned going out and standing out with your beret and your red hat, and I take a lot of inspiration from his commitment to getting the community aware of the issues happening in Uganda. I mean, these are things that we come to talk about, and these are the things that we come to express our concerns about. And so I'm kind of taking it a step forward, a step further. If you're in London tomorrow, I will be running I'm an avid runner. I'll be running the Vitality Big Half Marathon, and it is my intention to run it fully kitted out in a red beret and a Speak Up Uganda shirt. And I'll be running from the start, which is in the Tower of London Bridge, and we go all the way around and finish at the Katisark. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Comrade Dorcas is trying to arrange for a few people to stand up, be visible. Absolutely, this is all about raising visibility. Stand up and be visible at the end. So if you're anywhere in London between sort of 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, you will probably be more than welcome to join us as we make noise and raise visibility of the plight of our country back home in Uganda. Yes, I see Michael Kirkpatrick is raising his flag. I wish you were in London. You would join us. I'm sure you'd make a valuable contribution to the support. Yes, but if you're around, some of these protests, they're protests that are for sensitizing, they're protests that are for calling for action. There are other protests that are all about demonstrations, all about raising visibility, raising our awareness. This is a good chance for us to go out and get people asking us questions, see if we can get any coverage. But look out, if you're looking on the road and you live anywhere near the Katisark, Greenwich, Tower of London, look out. And if you see a mini Bobby Wine running, that will be me. Please shout, "Free Uganda, free Fred Lumbuye," and let the world know that Uganda is bleeding.